So before we dive in, let's bring up the lights and connect a bit. Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be a creative person. Raise your hand if you don't consider yourself to be creative at all, and it's okay. Yeah, it's cool, right? Okay, so raise your hand if you've done one of the following three things: cooked a meal, sat on your living room couch, or gotten dressed. Trick question. We're all creative. We've all created a meal. We've all created the interior design of our living room, and we've all created an outfit. Now, these are just a few of the questions I asked hundreds of people about creativity and their relationship to it. And I'd like to share the results with you this evening, because creativity is as individual as it is universal. I've had a long relationship with creativity. At the age of 9, I was cast as Amal in Mendelssohn's operetta Amal and the Night Visitors at a local community theater. And I was on stage performing, and I was hooked. I knew that what was in here had to be shared out there. And for the past 30 years, I've been a student of creativity, performing on stage as a dancer, singer, and actor in productions of Mamma Mia, Cats, 42nd Street, and a chorus line, and also working behind the scenes as a director, choreographer, author, and playwright, and also as a voiceover artist, bringing words to life behind a microphone in a soundproof booth for TV commercials, corporate narrations, e-learning modules, and even apps on your iPhone and Android. And through the years, I've met other creative people and shared wonderful conversations about our individual yet universal relationship with creativity. But for me to share with you tonight what creativity is really trying to tell you, my idea worth sharing, we first have to have a common understanding of what creativity actually is. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines creativity as the ability to make new things and think of new ideas. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is so boring. It doesn't even scratch the surface. So through this research, asking hundreds of people how they define creativity, this is what they said. Creativity is a feeling. Creativity is a force. Creativity is a secret. Creativity is love. Creativity is God. Creativity is the source. Creativity is an energy that gets caught up in time and space and flows through us, yet also carries us. Creativity is an entity like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. You just know it's there. So, the ability to make new things versus a force. The ability to think of new ideas versus love. So for the next couple of minutes, let's take a deeper journey into creativity and figure out what it's really trying to tell you. A few fun facts that emerged from the research. There's a mutual agreement that the creative process has a beginning, middle, and end. Now, depending upon the medium, depends upon the duration of the creative process. So cooking a meal, beginning, middle, and end, 10 to 60 minutes. Writing a book, 6 months to 3 years. What also emerged from the data is that there's a mutual agreement that creativity is necessary and has needs. But what fascinates me is that no one said that they were taught the creative process, nor told that creativity is necessary and has needs. It was just something that had to be experienced on their own and was felt to be known. Here it is again. Creativity is as individual as it is universal. So the creative process always begins with a thought, but we're having thousands and millions of thoughts a day. Why aren't we creating all of the time? Well, sorry, Miss Manners, but it's not just the thought that counts. It depends upon the environment that the creative thinker is in. Is the creative thinker in a negative, shaming, and harmful environment? Or is the creative thinker in a positive, healthy, respectful environment? Creativity needs sacred space. Being in a sacred space can gently nudge that creative thought out into the air like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Some examples of sacred spaces are lofts and studios where painters and sculptors go to work on their art in peace. A friend of mine who's a writer who works from home was getting really frustrated, so I said, go to the library. That's a sacred space where other people have an appreciation for the written word and love silence. It's where she could open herself up and let the creative juices just pour out onto the page, and her stressed out face gently relaxed into a soft smile. It's even more wonderful when that sacred space can be shared with other people that understand the creative process to gently nudge that thought out into the air. True story. I was working with my voiceover coach, Deb Monroe, on a piece of copy about Tuvalu, a Polynesian island that's no higher than 5 meters above sea level. And due to the sea levels rising, well, this island's going to be wiped out completely. A serious documentary. And as you can tell, I'm a bit quirky and creative and a bit dorky, getting a bit deep and serious. It's not something that I do that much. And Deb knew that, so she said, get really close to the mic. Get right up in it. It's gonna feel intimate, but that's okay. That's where this story lives. And she gave me permission to get vulnerable in this sacred space, to let that creative thought flow out. And this is what we recorded.
But now, Tuvalu is said to be disappearing. Scientists have told the people of Tuvalu that their home will be underwater in the next 10 to 15 years. This is a story about the people of Tuvalu, told by them. Their hopes, dreams, thoughts, and their view on the future of their nation. What is a person without a country? And how can a nation disappear completely?
So creativity needs sacred space to be vulnerable in. It's where thoughts become things, a painter's studio, the library, a quiet corner in your home. So if creativity needs sacred space, creativity is trying to tell you to cultivate that sacred space so that thought has a place to evolve in. Which brings me to the second phase of the creative process. Once you've honored that thought, you gotta play around with it. Sculpt it, shape it, mold it, make it more tangible, bring it to life. But in order to do so, you gotta fall down and get back up. Fall down and get back up. Fall down yet again and get back up. Creativity needs mistakes. True story. At the age of 24, I was cast in the musical Cats. And back then, that was the show that every dancer wanted to do, and I was so grateful to be a part of it. First day of rehearsal, I sign in at the stage door, get changed into my dancing clothes, and start warming up in the studio. And one by one, other dancers start to come into the studio and warm up next to me, and slowly but surely building our own sacred space within our bodies for a full day of dancing. 10 o'clock rolls around. The associate choreographer comes into the studio, says a quick hello, tells us to grab our bags and to follow her. Well, I thought the building was on fire. But no, she was taking us down to the stage, the largest scale of a sacred space for a performer, and she said, although there's a lot of choreography to be learned, it would behoove us if we were to get on stage and improvise as cats. Very reluctantly, we got down on our hands and knees to roll around on the floor as cats. To give you an idea of the Cat stage, upstage center, there's a big tire that at the end of the show, Grisabella, the glamour cat that sings, "Memory all alone in the moonlight," gets on it and they blast her through the roof. Musical theater. So the tire was back on stage and a buddy of mine was on his hands and knees circling around the ring of the tire. Like a cat, very reluctantly. And he's circling and circling, and then out of the blue, he loses his balance and falls right into the center of the tire. Well, he obviously made a mistake. First day of rehearsal, the sacred space, I thought he was gonna get fired. But he used the time and space that was given to him to create a wonderful moment. He poked his head from out behind the tire, looked around, shook it off, and created this wonderful cat-like character that was curious, but also clumsy. So although he made a mistake, this improvised moment was the catalyst for us dancers, gave us permission to lean into that vulnerability, make mistakes, and play around as cats. So creativity is trying to tell you To get messy, make mistakes, fall down, get back up again, embrace the F word, failure. I haven't heard of anyone that could walk the first day that they were born, so why do we put all these unrealistic expectations on ourselves to never fail? I've failed hundreds of times. I've lost thousands of euros and dollars. I've lost friends. I've lost businesses. Did it hurt? Hell yes. Did I learn something? Mm-hmm. So it's from those mistakes that our creations are so much more powerful than that original thought. It's where your creation starts to take on a life of its own and begins to breathe. Which takes me to the third and final stage of the creative process. Once you've honored that thought, played around with it, molded it, shaped it, made mistakes, you're going to get this feeling. And you're going to know it's done. So you stop adding to it, let it be, and you release it out into the world. Creativity needs to be shared. True story. In 2002, a friend of mine gave me a book called Sea of Tranquility by Paul Russell, and he said, this book needs to be turned into a play. And I read it cover to cover, and I was resonating with this book. There was even a character named Jonathan, just like me, who's quirky and creative, just like me. And I go, this book needs to be turned into a play. And the thought was there to turn the book into a play, but I didn't give it the sacred space it needed until 2005, 3 years later. I was packing my suitcase to go on holiday for 2 weeks all alone. I was in desperate need of some thinking space, some breathing space, some sacred space. And lo and behold, the book lands right next to my laptop in my suitcase. You can guess what happened next. 2 weeks, sacred space, all alone. I got a first draft, baby, woohoo! Fly back home, let it sit on my laptop for another 3 years to stagnate. 2008 rolls around, I get this funny feeling in my stomach and it's not gonna go away. So I start to work on the play and I start to feel better. Until I realize, geez, I need to tell the original author what I'd done. So I reach out to Paul, tell him about my adaptation of his book into a play, and when I hit send on that email, it's like jumping into a bottomless pit, scary yet exhilarating. Thank God Paul wrote back. And we cultivated a wonderful friendship and started to collaborate on the play. Until we too got stuck. The play was at a crossroads yet again. We needed actors to act in it. So I flew to New York, got to meet my all-time favorite author, work right next side him, and bring this play to life with actors in a staged reading. So after this creative highlight of my life, I fly back home and we decide to look at it later with fresh eyes. 2013. I get that funny feeling again, so I start to work now on the final draft, make a few minor corrections, and then say, listen, I have to share this with the world. And give the play permission to find its own sacred space, find a theater to be produced in, find actors to act in it, find an audience to see it, and that's when it hits me. The biggest secret of creativity. Creativity is cyclical. Creativity is trying to tell you to share your creations with the world, and in doing so, giving your creations permission to find their own sacred space, to inspire others, to shake, to move, to nurture, to grow. Nothing's original. We all know that. It's all rehashed, remixed, redashed, recycled, but filtered through our own creative process and brought out into the world. Me, for example, I'm hugely inspired by Brené Brown, Marie Forleo, Danielle Laporte, Jonathan Fields, Tim Ferriss. I'm inspired by my friends. I'm inspired by other pieces of art that I see. I'm inspired by every single one of these people speaking this evening. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by the internet. But it's all filtered through my creative process and brought out to you in this moment. Whoa. Creativity is as individual as it is universal. Even now, me on stage, you out there, us in this glorious sacred space. I hope you take away something from this evening and integrate it into your own creative process. Give it the sacred space that it needs. Make mistakes with it until you can't hold back and you share it with the world. I wonder what it's going to be. A slide that caught your attention this evening, the color of the shirt of the person sitting next to you, or me rolling around on the floor like a cat. Or what about this moment? this remarkable stillness in which we all know that everything is possible. So I'll leave you with this. We're all creative, no matter what you think. Whether cooking a meal or conducting a symphony, we all need a sacred space to do it in. Whether drawing outside the lines in kindergarten or acting too emotionally in an acting scene. We need to make mistakes and understand the borders of our creations. Whether launching a digital product or showing our sculptures at an art show, we need to share our creations with the world, and in doing so, give our creations permission to find their own sacred space, to inspire others, to keep that cycle going again. But sometimes we need a gentle push. Sometimes we need a good kick in the butt. So, I don't know, let me be that for you. In your goodie bag this evening, you have a permission slip. And I learned this from Brené Brown. She gives you permission to write permission slips for things that you've always wanted to do. Now take this permission slip and you can do whatever you want with it. Put it on your vision board, carry it in your back pocket, put it in your wallet or your purse, or make 147 copies of it and share it with strangers and friends alike. On your permission slip, it says this: I give you permission, allowance, the ultimate green light, to listen to what creativity is trying to tell you. Create something truly spectacular and share it with the world. However individual, yet universal. So, what are you waiting for? Go. Create. Thank you.